Hello there guys and welcome back to the channel. Right, so Spider-Man Classic buff is here and this is the moment that we all have been dreading for because the initial look of this buff looked quite dreadful and well, we all kind of expected or hoped Kabam would improve upon it before releasing it. Otherwise it's just going to be one of those champions that, got buffed and we never use anyways. And it's a shame because OG Spidey is like the most popular Marvel character. And this is the thing that I do not understand from Kabam is like Spider-Man Classic, OG Spidey, Peter Parker is the flagship of Marvel. Why do they care so little about this guy? I really don't understand. Well, there are kind of good and bad news about this buff. And the first things first, they did improve him. They improved this buff to a degree. Unfortunately, it just likely won't be good enough because he will still hit like an absolute noodle. Now, I'm not gonna go over all of the mechanics. If you guys do not remember how he used to work previously, basically you need spam level 1s in order to get access to several debuffs. The debuffs are listed here: Debilitate debuff, the Accelerate debuff, and Suppression debuff. On his basic hits, he gains taunt ability as well, so you can taunt your opponent and stack those taunts. They are very weak though, they barely do anything, but it still works as a taunt, obviously. I mean, the attack reduction is very weak, but the taunt still makes the AI more likely to throw special attack, and that's kind of the most important thing there. And then your idea is you're meant to spam your level 1s, get to like 5+ webbing, so you can get additional stacks of these things up. And then drop your level 2, at which point you will be able to do somewhat decent damage. Right. The problem with this design philosophy is that he's a champion whose utility you need to ramp towards. The only utility that you will be able to access relatively immediately is going to be the fact that you can inflict taunt debuff, which is nice. Definitely not, nothing. But everything else you need to build up to your level 1. Throwing a single level 1 will virtually never really solve your problems because you're going to need additional webbings and so on and so forth. And then once you have ramped him up, you will be able to shut down Unstoppable and Evade. But you can do the same thing with She-Hulk, throw heavy attack. You can do the same thing with Silver Centurion, throw heavy attack. You can do the same thing with Yellow Jacket, throw heavy attack. So where I'm getting at is stopping Evade and Unstoppable after 2 level 1s is definitely far from an impressive showing. Now, Suppression and Debilitate, are nice. Debilitate makes your debuffs last longer. Neat. And Suppression lets them get less power. And here is what they have improved. These chances previously were smaller. Now they are more potent. And that means that you will need less specials, kind of like fully cut down opponents' weight by 100% or cut down their Unstoppable by 100%. Same time, it's still a ramp up utility with no mention, no addition for damage anywhere. Now again, they have tiny bit increased his damage, where this used to reduce their physical resistance by 500 some, I believe. Now it reduced it by 900 per each taunt. So I do think this is more potent reduction. So after your level 2, whilst the opponent is stunned, you should be doing more damage. At the same time, it's still a 3-second stun. That's not all that long, and that is like your only source of extra damage. Level 3 merely inflicts 5 webbing, which is basically instant full ramp up. And then you have your signature ability, which is giving you significantly higher chance to evade, which again, largely is going to work as a defensive ability. And then duration of personal taunts is increased by up to 4 seconds, which is nice. The potency of taunts is increased by 2% flat, meaning each taunt can now reduce the opponent's attack by a whopping 3% now, instead of 1%, which again is just one. I could have given him 3%, attack reduction on each taunt instead, but whatever. And 4+ webbing, the debuffs from webbing can now stack up to 2 times. Sweet. So you're going to be able to double up. So this is where we're at, right? That is the Spidey's buff. Now, ironically, they actually have given him a ton of damage boost from Synergies. But in this game, Synergies at the moment really aren't plausible, really. Like here we have Spider-Man Classic with Hit Monkey. You get a fragility debuff that increases critical damage rating of incoming critical hits by 2,400 and reduce block proficiency by 50%. So this synergy, once you ramp up Spidey properly, will let you hit significantly harder. Same as Shang-Chi. Use of perfect timing while performing well-timed block or dodging an attack to inflict physical vulnerability debuff, reducing opponent's physical resistance by 1,400 for 30 seconds, max restacks. Now, if he had something like this on his base kit, he would have a chance. Given that it's synergy, I think he does. And there are some other interesting, like here on Evade, inflict a physical vulnerability debuff with Black Cat. Again, that would be nice to have in base kit. And Root with enough webbing now. Also, you have this heavy attack inflicts a non-stacking injury debuff for 13 seconds, hitting an injured opponent bypass 100% of physical resistance. Would be nice to have in his base kit, but all of those are synergies. And with that, I do think that he's still going to be underwhelming. Obviously, these small number changes might add together to have meaningful enough impact, but I really don't think it will. I don't think there was anything significant enough changed for him to go from bad champion to slightly bad to even get to mediocre line, let alone good. Because the initial buff would still have made him into a relatively bad champion. A Deadpool X-Force of sorts, where technically you can do some things and you can reduce opponents' attack quite a lot, but realistically, you never want to use Deadpool X-Force. And I think this buff kind of similar in a sense. There's not a single thing that you would necessarily want to use this Spidey for. Yeah, he inflicts a lot of debuffs, but so does every other science champion. And then we are talking about, is he buff immune? No. Does he has any immunities? Nope. Is he compatible with Liquid Courage Double Edge? Nope. Is there any bit of utility you'd really, really want to get out of this guy other than, that the accelerate? But again, it's just a worse version of slows and science champions that have access to slow. Again, nope, not really. And then you're left with a champion who has very little functional utility. And that is not a death sentence to champion. Champions with little utility or ramp up utility can work if there's enough around them. Like Hulk doesn't have a ton of utility. He also only stacks a ton of debuffs, has poison immunity, and does a ton of damage. But guess what part is missing from this equation here? Damage, right? So, to sum it up, no immunities, very little in terms of actual utility, ramp up playstyle, and low damage. Does that sound like a winner to you? Does that sound like the king of Marvel to you? Doesn't to me. Again, very, very important to point out, and I always get these comments, when I'm reacting to early information. People need to understand that I'm just doing that. I'm reacting to early information. I do not know what the future holds. Maybe there is something that I'm overlooking. Maybe, all of these slight number changes do make much better impression. Maybe when you put it in practice, he might discover some, useful applications. I'm not saying any of that will not happen. What I am saying is, based on the information provided in front of me, I am absolutely not excited or hopeful, or I do not predict this champion to do well. I'd be happy if he's great. I'd be happy if he's amazing, if he integrates in the game much better than he seems that he would. I'd love that a lot. I think it would be great if we actually have OG Spider that doesn't absolutely suck. But the way I see it, doesn't look it. The way I see it, he's going to be about as useful post-buff than he's pre-buff in terms of endgame applications. Do I think that if you pull Spider-Man now early on in the game as your first or second 6-star, you will be able to do things with him? Yeah, I do. Do think that any champion pretty much, or any moderately decent champion, can do a ton of work in this game, more so than people realize for early game players. Do I think that there will be a lot of good reasons for more established players to invest in this champion? Rank up materials, awakening gems, and stuff like that? No. Don't. Because there's virtually very little that seems of value in this kit. And it's a shame. Super excited when Spidey buff got announced. And they kabammed it up. I obviously will do pre and post buff damage comparison. I think I took my OG Spidey to rank 2, and I'd probably leave him there. I don't think I'm taking him to rank 3 based on what I see here. In most of the other buffs, I pretty much immediately took those champions up to rank 3, like OG Hulk and stuff like that. I don't think I'll be ranking up OG Spidey to rank 3. Maybe for lols, but we'll see about that. And yeah, I will be testing his pre and post buff damage comparison, but I don't expect that to be too much to be wowed by. But yeah, so the cliff notes of this entire video is, yes, Kabam did improve his buff slightly. So the way I'd characterize the difference here is, from his beta to now, they did what they did with Iron Man Infinity War, from his original state to his release state. But I tweaked the numbers, they improved, slight, tiny bit more potent this, tiny bit better this. But ultimately, it just doesn't matter. I don't think that, half the players have noticed that Iron Man Infinity War got buffed, And obviously with Spider-Man, you will notice that he got buffed. But I think the improvement from the initial beta gameplay that we saw to one that's coming to our games in a couple of days is going to be negligible. Same. Let me know what you guys think. I'm going to catch you guys soon. See ya. Hello there guys, and welcome back to the channel. So we have all the information about